Good morning, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. It is Thursday morning, right before Father's Day. So today we are going to be celebrating dads. So good morning. I am the Badass Buddha, Dr. Lori Monaco, coming to you from a beautiful, beautiful Southern Connecticut. And it has been an absolutely beautiful, last couple of days have been just phenomenal. And so good morning. And I am your authenticity teacher, speaker, coach. I am your chiropractic physician, your fat eviction specialist. And I think that's everything. Soon to be author. There we go.
Good morning, buenos días, mi gente, aquí con la Margarita on this beautifully cloudy Thursday. It rained all day yesterday here in Tampa, which is like so Connecticut, and I loved it. So I am your spiritual and creative healing life coach, your author, your writer, your artiste. I am your wedding officiant, your notary. I am your magically orgasmic gladiator guru. And welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. I'm kind of slow because I only had 2 sips of my coffee this morning. So good morning, everybody who's already been on, because it's a beautiful morning.
I know I'm slow this morning too. I had literally 2 sips of coffee myself. And so I'm tired because the last couple of days have been really crazy. But we finally got to one of the end results, which was graduating. My daughter graduated high school last night, my middle daughter. And it was, for those of you that have been on this journey with, as part of the tribe, this is the daughter that's been, she's had some ups and downs, and she's pretty prone to depression and stuff. So we had a really rough last couple of months. She was at a burnout level. So we didn't even think that she was going to pass, let alone she graduated with honors, which was absolutely thrilling.
Yay!
She had honors the whole time, but we were really thinking like this was going to push her over the edge, but she had the gold tassels, and she was in the program as honors. So it was very thrilling. And it was such a beautiful day. Like the weather was absolutely perfect, And then we grabbed a bite to eat afterwards, and we got home late. And, so that's one piece is done. And her high school experience was pretty tough. She didn't really care for the high school that she was in. And now that's done, so we're good to go.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for her. Give her a hug for me, please.
I sure will. And my dog decides that I let her out, and now she decides she wants to go out yet again. But I'm going to hold out.
That's beautiful. I know there's a lot of graduations going on over there. My granddaughter graduated high school last month. Florida's a month. It finishes a month before, but it's just such a happy moment, right? Like, thank God.
And what?
The fear they must feel though, like, okay, I'm done. 12 years of school, on to the next chapter. Like we think all the, but this. So I'm happy, and I support all the parents who support their kids through this transition from, a high school student to now it's adulting. I don't even want to adult. Like, what the heck?
I remember when I was in, when you're in high school, you're just sort of, you're like incremental. Like when you're younger, you're like, oh, I've got to finish high school. And then you get to high school and you may or may decide to go on to college. I kind of had to go to college. I kind of was given no choice. I had a choice, but I was very influenced into going to college. So I knew I had 4 more years to go. But it's like, you sort of think in little pieces. Some kids are really cool. They're like, oh, no, I'm going to go to med school. So I'm going to go to pre-med, and then I'm going to go to med school. And some are like, I'm going to get my master's degree. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. So I was just going into college, having a good time. Like, that's all I wanted to do. Little did I know, like when you total it up, I've had 4 years of college, 4 years of chiropractic school. So it's like, in addition to the first 12. So it's like 20 years of education, not to mention the continuing education that you have to do when you have your license. So, but if I thought of it that way, I don't think I would have been like, oh, would have like, you kidding me?
That's too much.
It's
Yeah, it's
too
too
much.
much.
Yeah.
But I like the kid who's going to say, well, I really don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to go to community college and figure it out.
Yeah.
And because community college, I think, is the best route to take after high school, because you're only doing your general studies. And that's where you're actually in the school. You're listening to your peers and what they want to do. And sometimes that's where you get awakened. A certain part of your brain wakes up and says, I am good at this, or maybe I should venture into this. So I applaud that. I applaud anyone who wants to do what the hell they want to do after high school. That's, well, of course, make them self-sufficient, but that they're following a passion. If you do that right after high school, you can't lose. You
I
can't
agree.
lose.
And I think that if you really don't know what you want to do, going and just going off to college, because I'll tell you, that's what I did. I mean, I was lucky. My parents were going to pay for my college. So, but at the same time, I was like all over the place, and I changed my major a gazillion times. And in the end, 4 years, I didn't graduate with a bachelor's degree. I had to get it later, and pay for it myself. So, it's really like, and a lot of community colleges are kick ass. Like, like the community colleges here in Connecticut are amazing. Like they have phenomenal teachers, they have phenomenal programs. So I definitely agree with you. And then, you know what, if you don't know what you want to do, there's so many options now with online schooling. So you could like say, I'm just going to work and I'll take a class here and there and then pay for it a little bit at a time if that's the case. And so again, community college is it's a cheaper way to do it. But definitely you want to have at least an idea, like, because and nowadays what they do with the student loans, they make the parents automatically co-sign. So if you're getting financial aid, the child has to sign and then the parent has to sign. So, and when I say child, you could have a 26-year-old child that's going to school that has lived on their own. And actually, I shouldn't say that. If they're still if they're still claimed by you as a dependent, the parents have to sign for it. So, I'm thinking, God, I'm glad my parents didn't have to sign for mine. I wouldn't want them to be in charge, like responsible for my student loans. And then there's Biden, who's being pressured to write them all off. Just write them all off.
It should be written all off. It should. But, it's like a kid can be in debt with 4 years or 8 years of college and in their name, and they're 18, but they can't go get a bank loan for a new business. They can't get other things, but they're like in debt forever with this college thing. But anyway, I feel if you're finishing school, I don't care if you're finishing school at 18 or 58, or you're entering school at whatever age, just two things. Don't lie to yourself and want to take up a course because someone else is taking it up.
Don't lie to yourself ever.
Don't lie to yourself
ever.
And don't waste your time because you're never going to get it back. Don't do those two things. Figure it out. And if you don't know, say you don't know. Get a job, save your money until you do know. But don't lie to yourself in that, and don't waste your time. If you don't want to go to college, don't go. Half of the most brilliant people don't have college educations. So just figure it out.
A lot of entrepreneurs don't. A lot of very successful entrepreneurs don't. I mean, like Tony Robbins doesn't have he's like a multi-millionaire. There's a lot of them. A lot of these people don't have, and it's not saying like don't get the education. It's more like just really follow what you're passionate about, like, I mean, I knew what I wanted to go into school for. And the irony is we're going to be talking about dads today. And my dad was a very big influence on me. And my dad and I got along really, really well. But he also was very opinionated. So, and he never followed his dreams. He was talked out of his dreams when he was younger. And so and the irony is that he and I followed very similar paths because he was very artistic. He should have went to art school. He could have really been like an amazing something in the art industry. I don't care what, but he would have done something. And so was I. And when I was in high school, I was like, oh, I want to go to school for art. And he's like, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for you to go to art. You're not going to make any money. And I'm like, because that's what his parents said to him, you know? So, and the interesting thing was I wanted to go for animation. And that was when, you know, we're talking a long time ago, people. That was when, whatchamacallit was just starting to come out, like Pixar. And so had I gone to school for that, I could have easily made my way to California and went there. Became a part of that. So hold on a second. I've got to grab something quickly. So talk amongst yourselves. Why don't you talk about coffee, or, you know, you want to set your intention? Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
No, I'll wait for you to set the intentions, but go ahead. So yes, mi gente. Those are the two things. And I think it's really important when you don't lie. And my father taught me that. And that's why I brought it up, since today we're celebrating Father's Day. My father, limited education, I believe it was 3rd grade in Puerto Rico, but he taught himself how to read, how to write. He was very proud of that. And then he taught me how to read and write in Spanish. I think I was about 12. He always said it was very important for me to learn how to read, write, and speak in Spanish. And so he used to read as the vocero, if anybody remembers what the vocero was. And with so much passion, since I was a little kid. I was a long, long time ago. But so I just think what I get out of that in celebrating my daddy, I celebrate his passions for learning, his passions for wanting to know, to be a self-learned man and to be passionate about learning and then share it. He used to read us all the vocero. He used to tell us stories 150 times, but we sat and listened like it was our first time hearing it, because he put so much, like he'll tell us how he was fighting somebody, he'll throw the punch, and then he's like, bah, and then his face, it was like a Bruce Lee movie. And
geez, I guess I see where you get that from then, where you get that you're a storyteller.
And so, and it didn't matter what he was telling us, but he made it so much fun to learn. And we're talking about somebody with a 3rd grade education. And he taught us that when you're going to do something, do it right, do it well, and do it because you want to do it. And that goes into don't lie to yourself. You always say, Margarita, no te engañes, nunca te engañes. Never lie to yourself, and don't waste your time, because if you're putting all this time and energy into something you don't want to do, then you're taking away from what you should be doing, what's your passion, what's your purpose, and then you're going to end up a bitter person. And then that's nobody's fault. Because I don't care if you wanted to be like the head of the sanitation department as you hear the garbage trucks behind me. Do it well, because they get paid pretty good. Don't be ashamed of anything. And I think that when you're going to go ahead and do something, do it with heart.
Yes.
Do it with passion, and do it because you want to do it. Not because anybody told you to do it, your parents, your siblings, your lover. Do it because you want to do it, because then like that, you're accountable to what you chose and what you're doing. And if you don't like it in the middle of doing it, no matter how much time and money you invested in it, you get to change your mind and you get to do something different. And my daddy always told me that. Follow what you want to do. Margarita, and then he would repeat to me what I told him when I was like 10, what I wanted to do. I was like, Papi, I don't know why I said that then. But, and that's a good thing. Hold yourself accountable and just know to say, you know what, I did want to do that. I don't want to do that no more. That doesn't tickle me.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I think that's the point of a parent anyway. I think that's really our purpose, is to guide. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, we are supposed to impart our insight onto our children, you know, and it is hard to separate insight, knowledge with opinion, you know, because and judgment, because we've experienced things and we don't want our kids to do the things that we did. And, you know, but we learned what we did because of our experiences. So it's very hard to be very objective, you know, and like my daughter, you know, she really didn't know what she wanted to do. She still doesn't know. So she did not apply to college, you know, and there was a little part of me that was sitting there and they were announcing some of the kids and saying which schools they're going to. And, you know, my kid's like taking a gap year, and I don't know how, it might be a 2-year gap. I don't know, you know, but I said to her, there's so many options, and I'm not going to push you into one or the other, but you have to do something. So like, you can't just lay around for the year and say, I don't know. You have exactly like 3 to 4 weeks to decide, okay, I'm going to get my job, and I'm going to start working, and I'm going to take classes, part-time. So, or maybe she's going to say, I'm going to start school full time in January. And I'll be like, fine, you're still working until then, but,
Absolutely.
so, but that's our thing, is to just sort of guide and say, like, what you have to experience things a little bit to really decide. I mean, I changed my mind so many times, but the one thing that always stayed with me was I always liked speaking to people. Like I took a public speaking class when I was a sophomore in high school, and that stuck. Like even throughout college, I loved speaking. I loved reading. I loved like personal development, and it was so funny because I didn't even know that's what I was doing. And so it took me a long time to sort of get around, but teacher was always my thing. Even though somebody said, why don't you be a teacher? And I was like, I'm not going to school to be a teacher. But I didn't think of it. I was thinking of it in grade school, and I didn't want to do that. Nobody ever said, why did you think about going to school and be a college professor? And then I was like, because that's what happened later. And I was like, now that I can do, but anyway, so let's do our mantra.
But it's never too late. Just in you saying that, and in whoever's listening, it don't matter how old you are, how many kids you have. It's never too late. It's only too late when you're on your deathbed. It's never too late to say, you know what, I'm 51, but I want to go back and take whatever I need to take to become a certified teacher, and then go into something. So never think it's too late. And before we go into the mantra and bring on Doc, thank you everybody this morning. Francia, my sister Connie, Lewis, Wanda, Desiree, everybody who's on. I can't see everybody's name. And thank you and welcome today. I feel happy today. So let's share the love and let's make it. Oh, look at my shirt.
I love it. I love those eyelashes.
My cousin Aisha bought it for me yesterday, so I'm happy with it. Okay, go ahead. I got the intention, so I go first. Okay, mi gente. Follow me, but put your name in place of mine. Today, I, Margarita, will control my thoughts. Focus on what I'm grateful for instead of complaining. Take care of myself physically, mentally, spiritually, and take steps towards my goal. One more time. Today, I, Margarita, will control my thoughts, focus on what I'm grateful for instead of complaining, take care of myself mentally, physically, and spiritually, and take steps towards my goal. And that's what should light the firecrackers up your ass, is that if you do all of that and then say, okay, I'm ready. Let me make my list. Let me start scratching off stuff I've completed. Go ahead.
And the mantra for today, I love my life. I love my life.
One more again.
I love my life. Don't think, don't say, well, if, I love my life today. Today, I love my life. And if it's not exactly where you want it to be, do what you need to do for today, for tomorrow, but I love my life.
Oh my God, they were in so sync. That's beautiful. They were in sync because today I will control my thoughts and focus on what I'm grateful for instead of complaining because I love my life. Beat it. We didn't even know we were writing that, but they go hand in hand. Love yourself where you are standing right now. So everybody take a moment. I don't care if you're sitting down. Where are you? Look all around you. Around your body, like where you will see your energy. Look all around you. Give yourself a hug and say, I love my life. Thank you for that, Badass Buddha, because that's so important. Right where you are, I love my life. I don't care where you are. You could be on the toilet. Love your life that you're able to sit on.
Hey, listen, I love when I'm on the toilet. It feels really good to just get rid of things, So that's I love my life at that point. Unless you're constipated when you're there, then that's not. But love it at that moment that you're in that present time. Love it that you have a toilet. You ever go somewhere where you're like, I got to go to the bathroom really bad, and there's like no toilets around, and you're like, oh my God, I really don't want to go in the woods, but whatever. So that's just the love and the gratitude piece. All right. So let's get Doc Hardy on he's in the house. So let's get him on and we start talking about dads. Hey,
Hey, what? Woo, 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 woo.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am down here in Oxford, North Carolina.
Oh,
in my dad's brand new house that he bought at the age of 72. How cool is that?
Huh? Yes.
Awesome.
All is well. All is well.
So what was your housewarming gift to him?
My housewarming gift to him, he has an acre of land. It's beautiful. I walked the property yesterday. I flew in yesterday. He has everything but a grill. I'm like, Dad, no grill? He's like, yeah, So a housewarming gift is actually a yard warming gift. I'm going to get him a grill. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. One, that you have your dad.
Yes.
Of sane mind.
Yep.
That bought a house and said, fuck it, I'm going to own this house today.
Yeah.
And that you're there celebrating with him. So I celebrate you for that because that's beautiful.
Thank you. And what's amazing is he and his wife, my stepmother, she's on her second kidney. So these people have no income. They have no income, but somehow they were able to buy this beautiful house on an acre of land. I am so inspired by what they've done that I'm like, I got a job and I don't even own a house. What's wrong with me? So,
hey, don't feel bad. I inherited mine.
But that's my father, and that's kind of my theme today. My dad has always taught me in indirect ways, and his example and the way he lived his life and the way he dealt with me are all ways that he taught me. So that's anything.
So do tell. So talk to us. Tell us because so the reason that it was especially heartwarming to have Doc on for today's conversation. Just with the conversation that we had, his journey, his thoughts now and his experiences with his dad and what that taught him to become the dad that he is today. And, just share as much as you want of your journey and what you're doing currently, if you want to share that little piece too.
So let me start. Yeah, let's start what I'm doing. So currently I've been in the electrical industry 35 years, right? So I work for a Fortune 100 company. As they say, those who cannot do teach. So I finally stopped doing, and now I teach electrical and fire alarm systems to professionals all over the world, really. So that's my 9 to 5. But the money from that feeds my passion. I'm a co-owner of a broadcast network. We own 2 radio stations. I own a production company that does audio productions and live music shows and produces radio shows. And I just started a business consulting firm that helps small businesses maximize their profits, figure out why they're not making money. So those are my passions. And I get it a lot. People say, you work a lot, Doc. You work a lot. And a lot of that stems from my dad. So let me tell you my first dad story. I'm 11 years old, in bed, Saturday morning, sleeping like most 11-year-olds do. My dad flings the door open, comes in. He says to me, you look like you're going to be lazy. Get up.
All of a sudden, one day at 11, he wakes up, opens the door. Look like you're going to be lazy. The days before, I wasn't thinking about that, but today.
I'm like, okay. So I get dressed and we get in the car and we drive down to the Norwalk Hour. And the Norwalk Hour is the local newspaper for Norwalk, Connecticut, where I grew up. And he got me a paper route. My paper route was Fairfield Avenue. So if you've ever been to Norwalk, Connecticut, Fairfield Avenue is a hill. And I lived in a place called Townhouse Gardens. And where the papers were on North Taylor Avenue at a general store, which nobody would make an 11-year-old walk that distance today. Like that would be like so unsafe. But back in 1977, you could do that, right? So I'm walking every day until I got a bike. And then when I got a bike, I'd ride to North Taylor Avenue, get my 27 newspapers and deliver them down. Fairfield Avenue was a hill. So I would just deliver. I learned valuable skills. Mrs. Hall was the lady that came every Wednesday to collect your money. So when you deliver papers, you Saturday you collected. She came on Wednesday, and you had to make sure that you could cover the cost of your papers, right? If you cover the cost of your papers, you made a profit. And the first time I made a profit, I was like, okay, work is cool. I like work, you know? So at 11, he taught me if you work hard, you make money. If you make money, you can get what you want. One of the things he refused to do when I was young, he would not buy any kind of fancy sneakers. He would go to Caldors or Bradley's or Kmart and buy like
The
Royal
blue light
Oaks.
special. He'd get the blue light special.
He get Royal Oaks, and if anybody went to school in Connecticut knows, back in those days, if you wore non-standard shoes, they would call them Bobos. They were called Bobos. Stanford, Connecticut, they call them Skippies, right? So you wore Skippies or Bobos, right? So the first time I wore Royal, and it had a song. Remember, Bobos, they make your feet feel fine. Bobos, they cost $1.99. I didn't want to wear no Bobos. So the first thing I did, I got tired of wearing Bobos, and I got tired of that song. So the first thing I did with my paper route money is I saved up. The Dr. J Converse cost $29.99, which today is like $179.99, right?
I know.
So I would save my money up, and I finally, after a month of papers, I went down to B&G on Wall Street, and not Wall Street, North Main Street, and I bought myself a pair of Dr. J Converse All-Stars, and that's what I did. So that's what I learned. Work, you make money, you can do what you want. And so without directly like telling me in words, he used his example, and he put me through this process by which now I know. That's why I work all the time. I know if I don't work, I can't do anything. And I don't have a college degree. I'll tell you, that's the other thing. You were talking about college earlier. I listened to your discussion about college, and I'm not knocking college. I think it's great. I want my doctor and lawyer to have a college degree. Okay, so my engineer. I want my engineer to be degreed. Right, let's just get that clear. But there's a lot of things you can learn. You know, most people that have MBAs, you know, you could learn that by running a business. Really, you know,
sure.
To be honest,
Absolutely.
right? So you know, well, I went to Wright Tech in Stanford, took electrical. So I have always had that mind of being an entrepreneur, even when I work for other people. And that's what he wanted. He wanted me to be able. His thing was, if you can work with your hands, you'll never starve. So even at my poorest, even when I was down and out of work, I ain't starved. And that's a lesson I passed on to my son. My son, when he was in school, I said, listen, I know you don't want to be an electrician because you get dirty. You know, kids today don't want to get dirty, right? So you don't want to get dirty. But he loves IT. So he went to school here in North Carolina, down in Winston-Salem. My son's coming up here Saturday to be with us. So we're going to have Men's Day on Saturday, father, son, grandson. I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
But he learned IT, but he also learned electrical as a fallback. Because I said IT is a very, very popular thing. Budget cuts are going to come. Inflation's going to happen. Economy's going to tank. IT people are going to lose their jobs like anybody else. But you know who's never going to be unemployed? Electricians. I have never heard of really good electricians ever really being out of work. And he does. He can do both. So I passed that lesson from my father to my son. And I think that's important as fathers to make sure that your children can take care of themselves. No greater feeling I had than when my son, I was going to send him some money last year. And he said, Dad, I can take care of myself. Save that money. Next time you come down, take me out for a steak. And that made me feel great. It's like, I did my job. I raised a responsible human being. He's now an adult. He's not going to be a burden on society. He can take care of himself, and he has a good heart. He's a minister, so he's giving to other people in the process. You know, as a father, what else can I say? My greatest accomplishment, period.
That's it.
How old is your son?
My son is 22.
Oh, dang.
A legacy. You're leaving a good legacy. Well, you're trickling. You're continuing the legacy.
Yeah. So, that was it. And the interesting thing about my son, and I don't talk about this a lot, and I hope I don't get too choked up, but my parents divorced when I was 25, right? So, and that was a horrible time in our family. And my father and I didn't speak for 10 years. So between 35 and 35, we didn't speak. And then I realized, that's not the way to be. And so he and I kind of worked through it, and we laugh at it now. He's changed so much over the years, and so have I. It's funny, as you get older, your parents get smarter, right? That's what you think. You think they got smarter, and you realize they were right all along. You were the dumb one. You were the slow one. You were slow to catch on, right? So anyway,
we don't we don't like to let them know. No, that's just it.
He's in the other room. He's in the other room. He can't hear me. But yeah,
so you think?
Yeah, but he So one of the things that I was concerned about, I was mad at him until I had problems in my marriage. I was married 21 years. The last five were just duty bound. And finally, the two of us decided, you know what, it's better if we don't keep doing this. So it was during that process that I understand my parents, right, and what they were going through. So that gave me more empathy for them and more understanding, right?
Yeah.
And they were both very understanding of me going through divorce. But the thing that I really was worried about, my son was, when we filed for divorce, he was 11. He was 11, right? So that was my biggest concern, And when I had to leave North Carolina because I couldn't make money down here, I needed to pay for all the things I was responsible for now as a divorced person, divorced man, all the the child support. And I assumed all the debt from the marriage simply because I didn't want my ex-wife to be burdened with working multiple jobs because she had him. I wanted her to be able to focus on him. So that was our agreement. We wrote that in the agreement that I would take all the debt from the marriage.
Wow.
And I look back on it. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. But by the grace of God, I did it. But over the years, I always wondered how my son really felt. And COVID really brought me to my knees in terms of reflecting on life. And I was very sad, very disappointed. And my son wrote me a beautiful, beautiful letter. I never said a word to him about how I felt or the concerns I had. And he just wrote a letter. Dad, you're a great dad. You always have been. You always took care of what I needed. You always showed up when you're supposed to. All these things I did. And I just sat there. I cried. I read that letter. I cried. I keep that letter on my desk. So when I have those dark days that we all have, I pick up that letter because the one thing I did right in life was I raised that kid along with my ex-wife. We co-parented that kid and together. That's the one thing we did together right. We raised a good young man. And for that, as a dad, it's special.
That's beautiful.
It is. Yes, that's phenomenal. So, I mean, like my dad was my biggest cheerleader, like for me, like I grew up in, so I grew up in the 70s and I was a latchkey kid, like literally, like the infamous latchkey kids. I used to have the key around my neck and I would let myself in. I was about 8 years old and and now, you can't do that now, but you couldn't really stay by yourself at that age anyway. But what I would do is I would let myself in, and then the neighbor from up the street would come to the house and she would babysit me until somebody got home, which was usually my dad, because my dad would work, early in the morning and he'd come home earlier in the afternoon. My mother worked retail. She had the weirdest hours. She was all over the place. So, my dad and I got to be really, really close. And he was the PTO president. He was I took karate. He was at every single thing. And the interesting thing was that, so my siblings are 8 and 11 years older than I am. And their upbringing is different because they were more with my mother. My mom didn't work when they were younger. And my dad worked 2 jobs. So they never saw my dad.
Oh, uh-huh.
And so it's interesting how, like, my sister and I will have conversation about this, and the way she was raised was different than the way I was raised because of that, and like I remember one night I was in college and I had a little too much to drink. And the funny part is I remember this, I had a little too much to drink and I call my father, like I call my dad. And I'm crying on the phone to my dad, and I'm like, I think I was like guy troubles or something like that. And I'm talking to my dad, going, and he knew I was drunk, and he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm in my dorm. And he's like, all right, I just want to make sure you're in your dorm. And he's like, and he's talking to me, and so it's so funny to like look back at that and then say, that's so hilarious that like my dad was always, that individual. And I think, the last few years my dad has dementia, and he's really declined over the last few years, especially. And he got COVID, and he was dehydrated and really tired, and he was really bad. Like his dementia got really bad. Thank God he's better, and things came back. But for that moment though, I realized, I was like, it's interesting because the person's here, but they're not here. Right. And I do miss, my dad was always a jokester. Like, you walk in the house, that's he like commanded the room. He would joke around. He would be telling stories. He was a big storyteller too. That's all gone now. He'll tell a joke here and there that he can remember. Yeah. And I think about it, I'm like, you don't realize what you have until it's not there anymore.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And so that's why it's so important to really reflect as we're moving in. Yeah. Even if you don't have a good relationship with your father, take something that they did, or even if they didn't do. Yeah. Because even if if they weren't there for you, what did that do for you? How did that make you as a person? Right. But if they were there for you, right, and reflect on that and be grateful for it.
What you're saying, so important. Hold on. I got two sources here. It's so important because I'm 50. I'll be 55 in September. And what I realized, I had a friend of mine who just lost her mom 2 weeks ago, and the number of people my age who don't have either parent or only have one parent, and I have both of mine. My parents are divorced, but they're both alive, and I didn't realize how much I took that for granted. So getting down here to visit him and visit my mom in July became very important. And, again, you're right. Reflecting is good. My father really raised me to be, he was very hard on me. He was ex-Marine, bodybuilder. I mean, I was terrified of my father, which is hilarious because so he picks me up at the airport yesterday, right? So we're riding to the house, and he tells me he has a dog. I'm like, you got a dog? Like, really, Dad? He says, yeah. I said, what kind of dog? I'm thinking he's got like a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd or.
You got a Yorkie?
He says a Shih Tzu. I said, what? I got a Shih Tzu. I said, okay. I said, what's the dog's name, Dad? He says, Rudy. I said, what? I said, you have a Shih Tzu named Rudy? I'm like, Dad, what happened to you? Like, what happened to you?
What happened
to you? So I get here, and that little fur ball, I was playing with him all night last night. Just a load of fun with him. But that's just, he's changed, and I've changed. But I realized I was hard-headed as a teenager. And so he met
who isn't
my hard-headedness with his own version of being hard-headed. And I had a habit of going ahead, kind of assuming things. So when I got my driver's license, that's probably the biggest lesson I ever learned. Because up until then, he used to actually physically use a belt to discipline me. He never did that.
But that was the way it was.
Right. I mean,
right? You had the switch, probably. Right. Gladiator Guru.
I had all that switch.
I had the stick. Ropes, we had the stick in the house.
Spoons, all of that.
Yeah.
All kinds of. So anyway, I got my driver's license, right? And I was so happy. So one like that same week I got it, I got invited to play basketball in the Bronx. So what do? I get in the car, which was a 1972 Gold Duster, and I drive down to the Bronx, and I'm playing basketball, and I come back, and I come in the house, and my room was in the basement, and I walk downstairs. He's in my room watching my TV. So I knew already, problem. Something's wrong. So he says to me, where have you been? I'm like, oh, man. I could just feel it. I said, I went down to the Bronx to play basketball. He says, oh, that's nice. He says, how'd you get there? And that was the question. When he said, how'd you get there? I knew where this was going. I said, I drove the car. He said, whose car? I said, I drove the Duster. He says, the Duster. Who does the Duster belong to, Tony? I said, the Duster belongs to you, Dad. He says, oh. He said, did you ask me if you could take my car to the Bronx? And I'm like, well, no, I got my driver's license, so I assumed that, man, I could drive. He says, that's not what I asked you. He said, what I asked you was, did you ask my permission to take my car down to the Bronx to play basketball? I said, no, I did not. That's okay. He said, where's your driver's license?
Oh.
I said, it's in my wallet. He said, give it to me. I give my driver's license. This is now my driver's license. And I'm going to keep it for as long as I think I need to. So you remember whose car that is and what you need to do anytime you want to use that car. Now the worst part is I have been bragging. People see me driving the car around, all my friends. So now I'm going to work. The next day I'm riding my bike, right? And everybody in the neighborhood is laughing because they already know. Oh, you did something wrong. You did something wrong. Why are you not driving to work today, man? And for like the next week, I had to ride my bike all over until I learned my lesson.
Your Bobo's riding the bike,
right? By that time I had Converse, but yeah.
Okay, good. Because that would have made it even worse.
That would have made it worse. It was so embarrassing. I was driving to school. I had to take the bus now. So everyone's like, why are you on the bus, Tony? I'm like, shut up, leave me alone. Just stop. I don't want to talk about it. Well, I learned my lesson. But you know what? I never did that again. I made other mistakes. But that's the thing I learned from my father. He said, you're going to make mistakes. He made sure I didn't make the same mistake. And I think in life, that's what I've tried to do is don't make the same mistakes. Don't waste energy making the same mistake. Try to do better the next time.
That's correct.
And so my son, they'll take it to my son, same thing. He had a situation, and that's what he told me. After I corrected him, he said, Dad, I'm not going to make the same mistakes you made. I'm going to make new ones.
I like that.
He was so my son is the exact opposite of me. He's more like his mom. He's very, very calm, even as a baby. One time we were in Las Vegas on a vacation. And we go to this high-end restaurant in the Bellagio, right? And the lady's like, no kids, you can't bring your baby in here. I said, let me tell you something. I said, this kid, I know all parents say this, but I'm going to tell you the honest truth. This kid, he's 11 months old. He's not going to say a word the whole 2 hours we're in here. If he does, no matter what stage of dinner we're at, we will get up and leave. They're like, okay, all right, bet. So we go in there and we sit down. We have a nice dinner. He was so good that they brought him ice cream. And all the people in the restaurant, they were shocked. They came over. We thought our dinner was going to be ruined when you brought that baby in here. But he's so good. Look, he's so cute. And he was like the star of that restaurant that night. That's the kind of kid he was. He's been that way his whole life. Easy as pie. I was blessed with not having a kid like me because I don't know. I don't know what I would have done if I had a kid like me. But God was merciful in that regard. So that's but yeah, my father, I love him to pieces, and so to be down here with him now, and he turned 75 in September, and he's just really still teaching me. He's teaching me last night just some things he said, and I'm learning, and it's great. I really love being here.
I think that's the beautiful part. I mean, we never stop learning. And just because a person, like we become adults and we become older adults, and it doesn't mean that we still can't learn something from our parents. Because I mean, I have to admit over the last few years, I've learned I have a much bigger education than my parents have, much more life experience than both of my parents have. And so, I know I'm forever like saying that. I'll say I have a conversation with my mother and, I feel like I'm telling her something that she doesn't know. So she's learning something, but there's always room for them to have something to share that they can teach you. And I think it's beautiful to acknowledge that like that. That's phenomenal.
One last thing I want to share. I think it's important, especially, this Saturday is the Juneteenth celebration. A lot of people in this country are just becoming aware of what Juneteenth is, which is the celebration of the end of slavery. It's an important holiday for Black Americans. And my father he prepared me. I didn't realize what he was doing. He was preparing me for life as a Black man in this country. So at 10 years old, I'm in history class. Mr. Diller at Brookside Elementary in Norwalk. First day in class, we're going to class. Mr. Diller says, I give this challenge every year for the last, however long he was teaching. Maybe he said 30 years. No one's ever done it. So I'm the type of person, even at 10, when you say no one's ever done it, I'm like, never done what? Like what? So he says, no one's ever been able to recite all 50 states in alphabetical order. He said, if anybody thinks they can do it, anytime during the school year, you think you can do it, this is what I'm going to give you. He had a table full of games and other things everything on this table is yours. So I'm like, okay, bet. So I go home for 3 days. I practice. And on day 4, I come back and I said, Mr. Diller, I can do it. He said, do what? I said, I can do the 50 states in alphabetical order. He said, no, you can't. I said, yes, I can. He said, do it. So I get in front of class. He says, class, Mr. Hardy says he can do my challenge. No one's ever done it, but Mr. Hardy says he can do it. And we all know how Mr. Hardy is. So let's see if Mr. Hardy could do it. I was always a performer, even at age 10. Sorry. But anyway, so I get up there and I do it. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas. I can still do it. So I do it. And he was shocked. He just sat there looking at me. He said, do it again. So I did it again. He grabs me by the hand. He takes me around to every classroom of 5th graders and has me do it in front of all the classes. But here's the point of the story. And he looks at me at the end. He says, Mr. Hardy, he said, you are a credit to your race. Now, I thought that was a compliment. So I come home and I tell my father that, hey, Mr. Diller said I'm a credit to my race. He said, what? I said, Mr. Diller said I'm a credit to my race. And my father, his jaws, whenever my father got mad, his jaws would get tight and his temples would twitch. So that's how you knew he was pissed. He was pissed. And he never said anything about Mr. Diller. He never really even directly addressed that statement. What he did say, and I never forgot it, he looked at me and says, Tony, he says, I'm going to tell you something. He says, and it's the way it is in this country. He says, you're going to have to be twice as good as a white person to get half the credit. He says, always remember it, never forget it, because it's true. He says, the sooner you accept that, the better off you'll be. The better off you'll be. And over the years, unfortunately, in my professional career, I've seen it, I've lived it. It's helped me deal with when I reached, I was vice president of some companies. When you reach that elite level in corporate America and your race does become an issue, those words came back to me. And so that's another reason people ask why you work so hard. I work hard because I have to, because I can't, as a Black man in this country, I can't afford to be average or even the same as a white man. I have to be better. I have to stand out just to get one opportunity. And that's a lesson that I pass on to my son. Now, he's not as ambitious as I am, and he doesn't aspire to those things. He's definitely more of a he wants to be a minister the rest of his life. That's what he wants to do. He's more that way. But in principle, he understands that excellence is required. He just missed being valedictorian of his class by a couple points. I was valedictorian of mine in high school. So, but that ethic, again, my father taught me, and it's helped me even, now to understand hard work. Always do your best, and don't let anybody not give you an opportunity because of the color of your skin. Just be excellent. If you're excellent, you'll get opportunities, and that's what I've experienced my entire life.
That is very profound.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that, because that's what lights the firecrackers up our asses, right? That's one. And two, it's like your story is my story, just in a different gender. Because not only am I a second-class citizen because I'm a woman, but I'm a second-class citizen to the second-class citizen because I'm a Latina. So And we do. We got to work harder. And that's why I believe, people like tell we got to work harder. We got to speak proper. We got to wear hats to different things. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not a hat person in that sense. I am who I am. And if I'm going to stick out, I'm going to be true to who I am.
Right.
As a second-class citizen to the second-class citizen.
Right.
And do what I have to do, because that's us forging our paths for the others to follow. So I commend you for that. That is very powerful. But I just do want to read 2 quotes. That's somebody. And please, Doc, if when we're done, you can go back and answer some of the things, because people are speaking to you.
Oh,
here.
okay. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I have the messages up. Are they asking me questions?
Like Stephanie, Carmen Nieves' daughter, wrote, and she says, my dad is always there. He's the best father anyone could ask for. He gave me and my sister such an amazing example of how we should be loved and respected. Now, Carmen and her husband have 3 daughters. Nice. So that's very powerful.
Right.
Great rising to you, beloved Bridget. And then Michelle keeps writing, and she was like, what was it? Can't find it now. You see it? Badass. Oh, she says, oh, Doc, we have lived parallel lives.
I saw it. Go, Michelle. Yes, I saw. I'll respond to these when we're done.
Yeah.
I will.
Because
I will.
We need to get reminded.
Yes,
Lori, you have your dad, and the badass Buddha has her dad. And when I would go over her house, he might be in and out of the dementia, but he would always want to tell me a joke. And Lori's like, he already told you that. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, because he says it with so much.
Yeah, he only remembers 2 now. But, listen.
But he remembers that he needs to tell a joke to new people coming in the house. And that's what I loved about it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
And the interesting thing is that, like when you're in the, you're in the family, you kind of like get tired of it, because you're like, oh my God, he says the same joke and he'll repeat it a lot, But I will tell you this. When he was so sick that he could barely get out of bed, he couldn't walk to the bathroom without help, couldn't wipe himself, all this stuff in that 2 weeks. And I'd say to him as I was helping him, like sitting him up and feeding him, because he couldn't even eat him. He couldn't even eat the food himself or hold the cup to drink. And I would say to him, Dad, tell me a joke. And he's like, I don't feel like it. Aww. Do you know, at that moment, I couldn't wait for him to tell me the joke. So it made me realize that it's like, okay, you know what? Yes. Sometimes we get, like we hear the same thing, the same story sometimes.
Right.
But when the story's no longer there, then you realize how lucky you were when it was there. So I'm blessed because he is doing so much better. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to soak up every moment now, because, he's going to be 88. Yeah. His mother lived till she was almost 97. Right. So who knows, but you never know. So I'm just I feel very blessed that I got like this little reminder. So like, okay, pay attention here, Now,
I just want to say this before Margarita goes. I had the honor and privilege to produce her audiobook. If you haven't read her book, Soul Searching for Peace, the book is awesome. Collection of stories and poems. But 2 of my favorite chapters in that book you kind of touched on a few minutes ago. The one where you talk about your dad, and the one where you talk about your heritage. And those are 2 powerful. And you had to be there to experience it. But, she read all day. But when she got to that part of the book on her heritage, I thought I was at the Puerto Rican Day Parade. She her chest, she was like, come on. But Viva la Puerto Rico. She was like, she was tired. Reading for 6 hours is no joke. But she got to that part of the book, and it's like she got new life, talking about her heritage. And then, of course, when we read about her mom and dad, very emotional, and her kids. But this, I read the book before, but I didn't really appreciate the book till I heard her voice.
Yes.
I heard her read it, and then I had to go and edit it and, do all the editing. And so I've listened to that thing, I don't know how many times, but if you haven't read it, when the audio book becomes available, I encourage you to get the audio version and listen to this woman talk about her life and her experiences. You will be amazed and encouraged. I just want to say shout out to you. Thank you for the privilege.
Oh, no, thank you for that. I didn't pay him. But and badass, thank you for sharing about your dad. And that's what I wanted to say about my dad. You know, he was absent. He never showed up for birthdays, holidays, or anything. Then when he said he was gonna come, my sister and I would sit by the window all dressed up, waiting all day. We didn't even leave the window till my mother made us, because we felt that if we left the window and he came by and didn't see us there, that he would leave. So it was a very, I mean, he was the love of my life, and he taught us so much, and I get my storytelling through him. Absolutely. He told stories. He shared with us about our heritage, him growing up in Puerto Rico. And, you know, he taught us a lot of things by action. We grew up in Father Panic Village. So one of the things he taught us was, unless you don't want me to kick your ass or somebody hits you, you better fight. My father never hit us, but he was always standing there and not letting anybody else get in. So he taught us how to protect and defend ourselves.
Right.
He taught us how to be loyal to ourselves. He taught us to follow our dreams and do it like this so that nobody can interject or steal your life. And he did all this while being a weekday alcoholic and a weekend crackhead.
Wow.
So do I love my father? Am I ashamed? You know, I love my father. I honor my father. I'm proud of my father. He made me this, he was part of the Young Lords. That's why when I read about my heritage, I'm like this.
Right.
So it's like my mother was very different. My mother was very weak. What happened?
He'll
probably come back on. But thank you, Desiree. Thank you. And then we're going to have to talk what's your favorite part. And Chanel, she just talked about her daughter and how amazing she is. And I know Chanel, we all saw her grow up, and she is. I can't believe how tall she is. But going back, my mother and my dad made me the strong woman I am today. My mother made me strong and to stand my ground. My father made me want to learn everything. But the best lesson he ever taught my siblings and I is to study a person's body language and listen to their body language and not the lies coming out of their mouth.
Wow.
To the mouth, where their eyes go, how they fiddle with their hands, how they are in support of you. So all of that is a silent lesson that he gave us. And let me tell you, I still use it to this day. And I check. And when it's time, I'll cut that motherfucking cord. Done.
Amen.
But I'm gonna give you a couple chances so you to check yourself, because if I eat, you eat, right? If I want to grow, I want you to grow. But you got to check and check. So my father taught me, he planted, that's why my next book is El Jardinero de mis Raíces, the gardener of my roots, because he planted so many seeds of wisdom when we were younger. And it's now I'm doing something, I'm like,
yes.
So to honor our fathers is a great thing, you know, without their little thrust,
right?
This little seed wouldn't have been planted, right? So we got to be grateful.
That's right.
We have to be grateful, and I'm honored that I met the badass Buddha's dad, and I sat with him and we chat every time I went over there, because he's a gorgeous man too, and I'm honored to know that your father's his age. Second marriage, and just bought a house. Like that gives us all inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, when I was over the badass Buddha's house, I watched how her father patiently made his sandwich. Perfect to his taste. And he took his time, and I'm watching him and how he did. And to me, I'm not that patient. So I sat in awe watching that.
Right.
So when I heard he got sick, I was really affected, because I did spend that time with him. And it might not have been hours or years, but you spend that time watching somebody do something with love and patience. An impatient person as myself, I honor and value that. Yeah. So, you know, and then your dad doing what he did, and my mom and my dad creating walking time bombs. My sister Connie, they created walking time bombs. But guess what? Yeah. We don't just blow up for anybody.
Oh, what you said about the seeds that they planted in us early is, I think, you know, I see it now in my father. I see myself in my dad, and I see myself in my son. I'm in that beautiful point where I can see myself in both people, and you know, to be able to, it's a great feeling as a son, as we're driving through, and my dad's pointing out all the places he likes to eat. He hasn't eaten for whatever reason. I said, Dad, we're going to eat all of them this week. We're going to eat all of them, and it's on me. And he looked at me and said, really? I said, yeah. He's like, you got it like that? I said, I got it like that. because of you, man. Because of you, I got like that. He said, okay. So after this show's over, we're going to his first place. He wants to go to the Waffle House and eat chocolate chip waffles. He hasn't done it.
Oh,
He hasn't done it in years. We're gonna do that this morning, and then the House of Ribeyes Saturday night for the Man Day Saturday. The House of Ribeyes. We're gonna get our 16-ounce ribeyes, father, son, and grandson, and celebrate Father's Day that way.
that's,
that's
beautiful
awesome.
because you're
That's
such a what
awesome.
was it that your teacher told you?
A credit to my race.
You can write that and keep it as
Oh well, now I know what, God rest his soul, Mr. Diller. What he really meant was credit to the human race, because that's how
Beautiful.
that's
that
how
is. I was
that's
just gonna
how
say
I take it. That's
Yeah.
how I choose to look at it. I feel like I'm a
That's
credit.
and that's
I'm a
beautiful.
credit to the human race. I might even get a T-shirt that says that one day. Credit to the human race, because that's how I look at life.
and that's why I brought it back up again.
Yeah.
Because every negative needs a positive.
Yep.
And it's how we look at it.
That's right.
And it's like
Yep.
when the badass Buddha and I talk, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
That's right.
So, and then we look at our parents, and it took my son 12 to 13 years to get over his father and I break up. He was 10 when we broke up. He was about 21 when he finally said for the third time, I think I'm over it now. But he's still not. But so you just gotta remind them. So I think you know what? I like Chanel. Yes, your father is amazing. Luis Hernandez, happy Father's Day. I think happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
Happy Father's Day to everybody, whether your dad is here physically or just in spirit, whichever the case is. Happy Father's Day to all those who are watching this live and who check it out later.
Yes, and we'll do the comments, and thank you everybody who said something.
Thank you so much. Yes, we got to run. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful, happy Father's Day. Thank you, Doc Hardy, for coming on. And thank you so much. And listen, from the Badass Buddha, have a fabulous weekend. And remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
Doc, you want to say some closing?
I close my show, the Doc Hardy Show, on WKBS Radio every Thursday night the same way. Everybody be excellent to one another.
Fabulous. Great. All right, Guru, take us out.
From the glad ass guru. From the gladiator guru, mi gente.
All right.
Remember, breathe in the beauty.
And breathe out.
Breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.
All right. Peace, y'all.
Bye-bye.